This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
All right, everyone. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Now, for the past year or so, I've been giving Frank Warren as much praise as I possibly can. And I felt that, especially the first half of 2019, I felt that Frank Warren was doing a great job compared to what he was in 2017 and 2018. Such as Frank Warren, he's been putting on some good fights, such as Josh Warrington versus Kid Galahad. That went under the radar. For me, that was a brilliant fight. As in, on paper, brilliant fight. And on the night, it was all right, wasn't it? And just before then, Warrington versus Carl Frampton. Yes, that was December 2018, but you kind of get my drift. Along with Daniel Dubois, I've been praising Frank Warren for the progress of Daniel Dubois. I'm not one of these guys who say, throw him to the Sharks right now. No, not at all. I think Frank Warren has done an excellent job of progressing him and even put him in a risky fight. And it was a risky fight at the time against Nathan Gorman. Didn't turn out to be a risky fight on the night, but on paper, again, it was a risky fight. And he's done it time and time again. And I think that Frank Warren has been doing some great things, and with Joe Joyce and that as well. Obviously, he put him in with, like, not necessarily like Bermain Stiverne, but even then, that was kind of interesting. But Joe Joyce against Bryant Jennings and things like that. So I think that Frank Warren has done a great job, and I haven't really been negative toward him. Whereas a lot of people say that I'm always pro Eddie Hearn, anti Frank Warren, which just isn't true, and it never was true. I always base it on fight cards at a time. But fact is, listen, I've got Sky Sports, so I'm going to be talking about Sky Sports fights more than I am BT Sport. Pretty logical, right? But Frank Warren has to end the year saying something pretty stupid. And I don't particularly want to go in on Frank Warren. Not that I'm going to go in on him. I just think that is a stupid thing for him to say, and I'm going to explain why. As in, Frank Warren, he thinks that Anthony Joshua should allow himself to be stripped of the world heavyweight titles, most notably the IBF and the WBO. All right? And just not fight anybody, wait for the outcome of Wilder Fury, and then go fight the winner. Now, we're going to get into Frank Warren's statement, and then I'm going to break down everything that I could possibly think of going into this one. Now, Frank Warren's statement. Everybody knows Joshua's weaknesses, and it showed 100% in New York in the first Ruiz fight, that if he gets clipped on the chin, he'll go. His tactics were spot on for the last fight in the rematch, but he fought a guy who came in 15 or 16 pounds heavier than when he won the world title, and admits that he never trained. If I was Anthony Joshua, I wouldn't fight again until we know the winner of this fight between Wilder and Fury, and then make that fight. I'd let them strip me of my titles and not fight anyone until the big one. One thing about Pulev is that he can whack. So for me, I would say, you know what, I want to fight the winner of our fight, Wilder Fury 2. Get all the parties together, work something out, maybe some step aside where mandatory opponents are compensated for giving way. But that's because we want to do what the public want. They want to know who's the number one. The number 3 and number 4 fought in Saudi. The number 1 and number 2 are fighting February 22nd. So that is Frank Warren's statement. Now, first of all, there's quite a few things to say here. First of all, is it Wilder and Fury? Is that really number 1 versus number 2? I mean, according to Ring Magazine, yes. But according to every other ranking system, no. All right. But again, that's subjective. Whoever you believe is number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, that's entirely your subjective opinion. And it is just opinion. Until everybody fights each other, we don't know. But ultimately, for Frank Warren to say that we all want to know who the number 1 is, so therefore Joshua shouldn't fight anybody in case he gets chinned again, and then go fight the winner of Wilder Fury. Now, first of all, Wilder Fury, these two are going to be taking up the entire 2020. With fighting each other. They're going to have 2 fights in 2020. So Joshua's supposed to do what? Not fight anyone? And lose belts? Lose what it is that he's been working hard to do. He's the one who went around belt collecting. Listen, I'm a massive Tyson Fury fan. Everyone knows that. But when it comes down to it, Tyson Fury beat one guy to get all those belts. Joshua did it individually. No one else did it. He's the one who has the better resume when it comes to all the heavyweights right now. Closely followed by, in my opinion, a Dillian Whyte, then a Povetkin, then a Tyson Fury, and so on and so on. Wilder's nowhere near that top list right now. So we don't know that Wilder is number 1, 2, or 10. We don't know where Wilder is because Wilder hasn't had a meaningful fight yet. But for Frank Warren to say that Joshua should give up the IBF because he thinks that Pulev may whack him and knock him out. Okay, now, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, that Joshua has beaten better opposition than Pulev. Most notably, the guy who defeated Pulev in Vladimir Klitschko. Joseph Parker is better than Pulev. Povetkin is better than Pulev. So there's quite a few. Andy Ruiz Jr. is better than Pulev. Now again, for Frank Warren to say that he only beat Ruiz because Ruiz didn't train and Ruiz came 15, 16 pounds heavier than he did the last fight. This is heavyweight, makes no difference. Did Ruiz gas out? No. Would it have made any difference had Ruiz come in a bit lighter? No, because the tactics that Joshua had, Ruiz weren't ever going to touch him. Didn't matter how heavy he was. He could have come in 50 pounds lighter. Would have made no difference. Ruiz got little legs, okay? He can't. The only way that Ruiz can beat Joshua is if Joshua stays toe-to-toe with him, because Ruiz does have very, very fast hands. But again, to say that Joshua, he got hit on the chin and that was it. No, he didn't. He got hit on the temple, which then Joshua had to survive 4 rounds after in a concussed condition. So that shows great, great heart for Joshua, does it not? Now, for Frank Warren to say that Joshua should vacate the belts, well, first of all, let's just say for argument's sake, Fury defeats Wilder, both times becomes WBC heavyweight champion. Of course, we can throw in the linear on that as well, people like, and the Ring magazine. So therefore, he fights Joshua with all the belts. That's undisputed. That's Joshua versus Fury, undisputed. If Joshua has to lose the IBF and or the WBO, potentially both of them, by not fighting, then that's 1 belt versus 1 belt. So there's still 2 other belts floating around somewhere where it's not undisputed. Joshua Fury is a huge fight anyway with or without belts. That's for sure. But you put undisputed on top of it, it's the biggest fight that there ever possibly has been. Correct? But if Joshua, let's just say Joshua and Eddie Hearn go, okay, Frank, let's vacate the belts. You're right, I'm chinny. So Pulev gets the belt. First of all, Joshua ain't ever getting that belt back because Pulev is never ever going to give a unification against Joshua. Pulev has proven that time and time again that he doesn't want smoke with Joshua. And he's only going to fight Joshua because he has no choice because he's mandatory. He didn't want to fight him last time. But Pulev is a top-ranked fighter for Bob Arum. What do you think would happen if Pulev's got that belt? Bob Arum and Frank Warren would make a fight between Pulev and Tyson Fury, would they not? Of course they would. And then, of course, we start looking into splits and things like that, where Joshua could say right now, okay, 50-50. Even though on paper it's not really 50-50, is it? As in financials, as to who brings in what and where to the party. With Fury, that's definitely arguable. But with Wilder, nowhere close to it. But the thing is, if Joshua did that, but then either Wilder or Fury would go, yeah, but hang on a minute, you've only got 1 belt. You haven't fought in God knows how long. We're the ones taking the big fights. We're the ones who's done this, that, and the other. Therefore, we're going to offer you 20%. So then again, we ain't getting the fight. Frank Warren, what are you doing, man? What are you talking about? Has Tyson Fury defeated anybody that's better than a Pulev? No. Is that why you put him in with Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin? Because you knew that Tyson Fury is also chinny? Because let's not forget, Tyson Fury has also hit the deck 4 or 5 times in his career also. Is that why he was fighting the Schwartz and the Otto Wallins of the world? Because he wasn't supposed to have any trouble. In other words, preserve him for the big money fight with Wilder. Is that why Frank Warren and Bob Arum done that? Maybe, who knows? With Deontay Wilder. Wilder doesn't want Joshua anyway, even for 100 million. But the biggest carrot for Wilder is that the fact that it's undisputed on the line. You take away those belts from Joshua and undisputed's not on the line, Wilder ain't taking that fight. So if he gets past Fury, he ain't taking that fight. He ain't doing it under no circumstances. So for Frank Warren to say that Joshua should vacate the belts, vacate everything that he's worked hard to do. For what reason? Frank Warren, I mean, he talks about how, well, I think Andy Ruiz Jr., he's going to defeat Anthony Joshua. He's already exposed him. But you know what? I want Joshua to win because he's a Brit. And as soon as Joshua wins, suddenly he goes back into hate mode. Much like all the anti-Anthony Joshua guys. The guys who, well, Andy Ruiz Jr., he's definitely going to beat him. There's nothing in the world that Joshua can do. He can't adapt. He's a stiff robot. He can't box. He can't do this. He can't do that. Joshua does that in Saudi Arabia. And then what? Oh, well, he ran away all night. Come on now. Stop it now. And to say that Wilder Fury is the biggest fight of the decade or the last 30 years, as Frank Warren and Bob Aaron's been talking about, on what planet? On what planet is it? It's not. I'd love it to be so, but it's not. It really isn't. Fury hasn't beaten anybody since he come back. He hasn't. He's beaten, on paper, let's have a look, Sefer Ferry, Francisco Pianeta, Tom Schwartz, Otto Wallin. That's 4 guys right there that Fury gets 0 to no praise for defeating. Wilder, yes, he did defeat Wilder, but he didn't get the result that he should have got. Totally agree with you on that one. But fact is, on paper, he didn't beat Wilder. Much like with Wilder. Wilder has fought who? A rematch with Luis Ortiz, where he lost every single round until he landed the punch. What if Wilder hadn't have landed the punch? What then? He'd already lost the fight by the 7th round, had he not? So Wilder is a loss waiting to happen, as well as Tyson Fury is just as chinny, as Frank Warren wants to call it, as Joshua. Joshua has taken much bigger punches than what Andy Ruiz has thrown before, and stood there and took them against Vladimir Klitschko, against Povetkin. These guys hit much harder than Ruiz. It just happened to be he got caught on the wrong place at the wrong time. Frank Warren just has this real issue with Eddie Hearn, with Anthony Joshua, and I get it, they're rivals, but Frank, talk sense. Please talk sense. Do you want it to be undisputed, a Brit versus Brit for undisputed, or do you not? If you're worried about Joshua losing to Pulev, why are you worried about it? If Joshua loses to Pulev, then Fury versus Pulev for undisputed, right? Isn't that how it goes? Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.